decisions that they have to make, Lord. Holy Spirit, we call upon you now. We call upon your wisdom. Father, we call upon your wisdom in each and everything that's discussed tonight, all the decisions that are made, Lord, all the proceedings, Father. We pray for your blessing. We pray for your grace. We pray for your mercy, Father. We thank you that we live in a great nation that allows us the freedom to come before you and to pray before such an event as this, Lord. And Father, we invite your presence tonight, Lord, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, again, welcome to the Parish Council meeting. I would remind everyone present to please silence all your cellular devices. Be advised that we have speaker cards up here. If you wish to speak on an agenda item, please complete one of those cards and submit it in the box provided. Be also reminded that we have 3 sections of the agenda. We have preliminary items, but then we'll move into ordinances for introduction, resolutions, and ordinances for adoption. Those items that are not pulled from the agenda will be approved in one vote, those items under ordinances for introduction, and resolutions. Your submitting a card will entitle you to speak 2 minutes on an item, and then when we get into the appeals section of the agenda, we'll have 5 minutes for each side and 2 minutes for rebuttal. So I'll now move into the agenda itself. The first item of the first section is the election of officers for 2015. Item number 1 is Resolution CS number C-4245, resolution to appoint a chairman of the Parish Council for the calendar year 2005. Refer to my colleagues. Do we have a nomination for the position of chairman? Mr. Dean.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Richard Tanner for chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Are there any other nominations for chairman? None appearing, then I'll declare those nominations closed. We will now vote then for the position of chairman of the Parish Council for 2015. Do I have any objection to just voting by the machines? Is there a motion?
You need
Mr.
a motion to
Stefanski?
appoint, I guess, according to the resolution. Motion to adopt the resolution to appoint Richard Tanner.
Great. So we've got a motion to approve the resolution with the name of Richard Tanner. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Thompson. Therefore, we can, is there any further discussion on that item? None appearing, then please vote.
Mr. Artigue? Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Great. All right, Mr. Tanner, I will surrender the chairman's chair to you. Let me just say, before we do that, it's been an honor and a privilege for me to serve as chair for this year. There are a couple of folks that I need to thank for this honor and this privilege. First of which, my colleagues up here. I'd like to thank my colleagues. They've been supportive all year, and it's been a good year. I'd like to thank the staff. These folks that work for the Parish Council work very hard to make us all look very good, and I appreciate it. I'd like to thank the support I've received from the administration. Couldn't be a better group of folks to work with. And most importantly, I'd like to thank my family. My wife is up here on the front. Celeste, thank you very much for your support through this year. And now I'd like to start a little tradition. I bought a gavel for the next chairman, and I didn't want to be so. We didn't know who was going to be the chairman, so I didn't have it engraved yet. But I want to have it engraved ultimately. And when I pass this, I want to remind the next chairman to always use this gavel with fortitude, prudence, justice, and equality. And always remember that from the ranks you have emerged to the ranks you will one day return. I intend to return to the ranks now. Thank you.
Before you leave, let me get Mr. Faulkner, before you go and take my seat, and then we'll readjust the chairs next week, we'd like to present you with a gavel. Mr. Reed Faulkner, St. Tammany Parish Council Chairman, 2014, and we'd like to present you that and thank you for all you've done for this parish and time you have devoted to it, and we appreciate all you've done.
Thank you, Richard.
I appreciate the confidence the council has bestowed upon me, and I'll do my very best to carry out these duties to the best of my ability. This time we'll go to resolution number C4246, a resolution to appoint a vice chairman of the parish council for calendar year 2015. Do I hear nomination? Mr. Thompson.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Marty Dean.
Mr. Tanner, I'd like to nominate Gene Bellicero.
Thank you, sir. Are there other nominations? Do you hear no
I move the
motion?
nomination be closed.
Motion been made that we close the nomination. Is there any opposition to that motion? Hearing none, it be duly adopted.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to tell you, but that vote needs to be recorded.
We'll vote on the machine to close the nominations.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, is there any discussion about anybody? Anybody want to make a statement or anything?
No,
Gene?
we can just vote. We've had, Marty and I have had a very lengthy discussion about a month ago, and we are where we are. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. We'll vote on the roll call. Madam Secretary, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Dean?
Can I think a minute? I'd like to vote for myself. Thanks.
Mr. Sharp? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Faulkner? Mr. Groby?
Dean.
Mr. Tanner?
Dean?
Mr. Canulet?
Bellicero.
Mr. Bellisario?
Likewise.
Miss O'Brien? Dean? Mr. Stefanczyk?
Dean?
Mr. Bender?
Bellisario.
Mr. Artigue? Mr. Smith?
Congratulations, Marty.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you all.
No one's absent. It's 9 to 3. Now we need to appoint him. Now we need to appoint him to adopt the resolution.
All right, the vote has been cast, and Mr. Dean has won in 9-3 with one absent. And at this time, I need a resolution naming Mr. Dean the vice chairman of the.
9 to 4.
Yeah, I got 9.
It's my fault. Yes.
Make a motion.
Motion been made that we appoint Mr. Dean the vice chairman. Here, second. Mr. Grovey has seconded. Is there any discussion? Please vote on the resolution to appoint Mr. Dean as vice chairman.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
I don't see it on the agenda, but I'm understanding, I hope you understand it. I'm going to need a parliamentarian, and you need it quick. So at this time, I'd like to appoint Mr. Stefanczyk as the parliamentarian for the 2015 year. 2015. Do we need to vote on that? No, okay, I get to do something all by myself. Okay, now we'll go into presentations. Let me say this, we got some presentations that we're going to do. As soon as we get through with these presentations, we're going to ask the council if they want to move up the executive session at the end of the agenda. And if they so choose to do so, we'll go into executive session then we're going to move out to the conference room to do the executive session, so we don't have to send you out in the cold. And then we'll come back here at that time and make a report out of the executive session. Okay, first thing is a certificate of recognition to Mr. Philip A. Sharp in celebration of his 105th birthday. Mr. Thompson and Mr. Sharp are going to join me in this.
So you want to do yours first or me first? Okay. All right. Thank you, council members. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is for me to do this tonight. I had the honor of meeting Mr. Sharp and his daughter about a month ago, and what a joy they were to visit with. So I would like to make this proclamation. Whereas on December 21st, 2014, Philip A. Sharp celebrated his 105th birthday. And, that's right. Not yet, I got more. And whereas Mr. Sharp has been a lifelong resident of St. Tammany Parish and has seen firsthand the growth and progress of our parish for over a millennium. And whereas before the days of modern conveniences, Mr. Sharp toiled tirelessly and worked tirelessly the fields with mules and horses as a farmer to produce Louisiana tung oil, cotton, corn, and soybeans. And whereas throughout his life, he has also made contributions to the community as a muskrat trapper and a cattleman and worked for the police jury. And whereas he is the second of 10 children born to Rob and Della Sharp. And whereas in 2013, for the City of Covington bicentennial celebration, Mr. Sharp was declared the oldest resident of Covington, Louisiana. Now therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as President of St. Tammany, do hereby recognize the contributions, the many contributions and accomplishments of Philip A. Sharp, and I encourage all citizens of St. Tammany Parish to thank him for his lifelong service and contributions to the community and to St. Tammany Parish. Thank you, Mr. Sharp, and happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you. And here's another copy of that proclamation that we gave. Okay, I think Richard has one for you too. Another one. He has another one.
Mr. Phillip, it's an honor for me to be here and recognize you tonight. Mr. Phillip is one of my constituents. I'd like to just explain to you how active Mr. Phillip is. Mr. Phillip just renewed his driver's license for 4 years. And he still drives. He got into a little accident over in Tammany Parish where somebody rear-ended him. And so when the police came and they looked at his driver's license and said, there must be a mistake. So he said, no, I'm 104. And so they called some more police and they all got around him and took a picture with Mr. Phillip. So Mr. Phillip is an asset to St. Tammany, has a wonderful daughter in Shirley, and his son-in-law, George McLean, is here. Where's George hiding?
Stand up, George.
There, stand up, George. Mr. Phillip, for your 105th birthday celebration from the St. Tammany Parish Council, happy birthday. Signed this 8th day of January, 2015, Richard Tanner, Councilman District 6. I'd like to also acknowledge that Mr. Dennis Sharp, District 4? 2, and Mr. Sharp 3 are here. Mr. Thompson 3 is here to honor you also.
I think we have one more for you. Francis?
This young man I've known all my life and been a close resident. I've been a very close friend of the family. But I have a little certificate here from you from the state of Louisiana for you, Mr. Phillip. It says that Bobby Jindal, Governor, official statement. In the name and by the authority of the state of Louisiana, I, Bobby Jindal, together with the people of the state, hereby give special recognition to Philip Alfred Sharp in acknowledgement of your 105th birthday. Signed, Bobby Jindal, Governor of Louisiana. You want to say something? Mr. Phillip, you want to say something?
Mr. Phillip, you want to say something? You want to speak?
Say. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Yes, he
I'm
does.
gonna thank all of you, the whole crew of you. I appreciate it. I thank you.
We'll see you.
We'll see. You'll be back next year.
Thank you.
I'd say to my wife, I hope I make 70, but 2/3 of it. God bless you. That's awesome.
I'll tell one more story. Okay. Yesterday I went to the doctor for my checkup and told me I had to come back in 6 months. And then yesterday afternoon he called me and told me all my cholesterol, all my enzymes, all my thyroid, everything was working fine. I said, Doc, I got one question. I said, tomorrow night I'm going to give a plaque to a gentleman that's going to be 105 years old. Am I going to make it to that? He's still laughing. All right, at this time we'll go on to presentation number 2, which is recognition. No, Miss Rose is not going to be good. Jake.
Yeah, Ms. Bowes, the weather was a bit too inclement tonight. We're going to postpone it to next month's chair. And hopefully the audience will pack the house again to see Ms. Bowes receive an award for her 103rd birthday. Thank you.
At this time we go to presentation number 3, which is a Veterans and Military Affairs Advisory Council Pat Phillips, Chairman, Pat Brister. You put it on the agenda, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, President Brister, I want to thank you for the opportunity, not only for letting me serve on the committee or council and for being the chairman for this past year of such a great organization. And if it wasn't for the executive committee I had to work with and all the veterans back here, to include the North Shore Honor Guard being present for everything we need, it would have been a really tough year to get things done. Some of the accomplishments that we did have during the past year were we had a lot of older council members who worked with Lane Carson in the past, and then they helped bring the Louisiana Veterans Cemetery, the Southeast Louisiana Cemetery, online. And after the cemetery did come online, we had the opportunity to start the Wreaths Across America to put wreaths on the graves of all the veterans that are currently buried in the cemetery. And our staff managed to work with the coroners and other of all the parishes in the general area here to identify the homeless veterans that had passed away that had not been interned yet and give them a proper burial. And this included the ceremony we had for veteran Private Patrick Higgins out at the cemetery about a month ago. And it was something to see. It was really a touching ceremony. We also had the opportunity to honor the Korean War veterans. We only had one award to give out, but we gave one award for the Korean Peace Medal during the Veterans Day celebration up at the Justice Center. We did sponsor various civic and social meetings, and then we had the opportunity to drop off truckloads of beads and trinkets for the parades over in Slidell. It was a Dionysus parade and Selene parade. We managed to collect toys for the Marine Toys for Tots. And let's see here. Had an opportunity to brief advisory council and through public meetings, attendees on legislation regarding the VA benefits. We also got our website up. We finally designed a logo, which we hope to get to the President Brister to get her final okay on it. We provided a speaking platform for the members present to work with the local and nonprofit organizations around here to establish a homeless veterans home. We were trying to work through the Rider to Brotherhood. We mentioned Trilby. There was some money that was set aside, but we're going to have to get back to the council with an update on that to see whether they're going to be able to use the money or not. And that's about it for right now. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Are you going to do, Mr. Brister at this time will make a presentation of a certificate of appreciation to the North Shore Honor Guard. Okay.
Come on up. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. In recognition of your hard work, commitment, and dedication to the needs of veterans, your unwavering persistence and driving force in the establishment of the Southeast Louisiana Veterans Cemetery in St. Tammany Parish, and for rendering military honors during the Tribute to Fallen Heroes Day and delivery of the 21-gun salute for the homeless veterans interment ceremony. This 8th day of January 2015, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And if you all have not seen that cemetery, it is worth a drive out just to go and look. It is a wonderful way for us to honor our veterans, and they did a beautiful job. Lane Carson worked very hard to get it here in St. Tammany, and we should be very proud, as we're very proud of you, and we thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And on behalf of the St. Tammany Parish Council and the people of St. Tammany, we give our whole heart thank you for the service that you have provided for our country. Thank you. Presentation number 5 is a certificate of recognition to Kathy Williams and Kigi for winning the Go Give Award. Mrs. O'Brien.
Okay, Kathy, could you come up, please? And it's actually KG's.
KG's.
Yes.
Knew that.
Well, recently I had the privilege of attending the St. Tammany West Chamber of Commerce Business Awards luncheon for 2014. And Kathy was one of the recipients of an award there. She received the Go Give Award. I want you to hear a little bit about what I heard that day. Kathy Williams opened up her business in June 2010. She's participated on a regular basis with the Chamber, North Shore Rising Professionals. She's an avid supporter of many groups. I'm going to name some of them that she has assisted. Old Mandeville Business Association Empty Bowl Event, Save Our Lake Foundation, Mandeville Celebration at First Baptist Church, St. Anselm Gala, Mary Queen of Peace's Gala, St. Tammany Humane Society Gala, White Summer Nights, Cystic Fibrosis Grapes and Grain, Men Who Cook, Mandeville's Oktoberfest, Boo Fest Chili Cook-Off, Christmas Past, Food Bank of St. Tammany, Rich Maudie Tennis Tournament and Stone Creek Family Appreciation Fundraiser, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Bras for a Cause and Glow Stick Race for Cancer, Run for the Joneses, Project Graduation, Maritime Foundation, fundraiser for Samantha's Playground, and she's assisted the following organizations: Three Rivers Art Association, League of Women Voters, Women of Infinite Possibilities, Moms Helping Moms, Kiwanis, and Home Builders Association, and I happen to know that this is some of what she's done. I just thought that was so incredible. Kathy is just a wonderful person. She has this saying, you come in as a customer and you leave as a friend, and that's true. She becomes friends with everyone. And I'm just so proud to have her in my district. She does a fabulous job for all of us. So we'd like to give her this certificate of recognition, which reads, the St. Tammany Parish Government desires to recognize Kathy Williams of KG's Restaurant and Oyster Bar, the 2014 recipient of the Go Give Award, for her service, dedication, and donation of time and resources for many local events and organizations. Her community involvement is greatly appreciated by all the residents of St. Tammany Parish.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to say a few words?
Wow, I'm tired from just listening. I do a lot for the parish, but it comes from my heart. I was raised by great parents who taught me to give. So when I give, it isn't hard to do. So I like to help anyone who needs help. I always say, you know, I've been blessed so much with the family that I have. So if I can help someone else out that needs it, I'll be there to help. As long as this parish will have me, I'll be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
As I said earlier in the meeting, at this time, if the council so desires, we would like to move the executive session at the end of the agenda up to this spot on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think if we're going to have an executive session, instead of having two, which this would call for, we need to combine those, which means we need to open up the items off the floor and take the executive session off the floor, and then also move the one up from the end of the meeting. I think we should do those both at once rather than have two separate executive sessions. So I would move that we open up the items off the floor to consider item 3, the executive session.
Any discussion? Any? All those in favor, vote.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we move both executive sessions up to this point in the agenda and take the executive session immediately.
All right, motion been made that we go into executive session to discuss these two items of business. To give you a break, if this passes, the council is going to adjourn into the conference room and have the executive session, so you can stay in your seats. I don't think we'll be long. We'll come back out and give you results of what happened in the executive session. So is there any discussion on, all right, all please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
All right, we'll be going into executive session into the conference room. I'd like to call the meeting back in session and ask that we have a motion to go out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion been made and seconded. During discussion, all in favor, please vote. All opposed, please vote also.
Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson? Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
All right, this time we'd like to go to our legal counsel for
I would like to,
statements.
I'd like to announce that the
The matter regarding the state litigation in Baton Rouge, that a request was received regarding, we presently have a hearing for February the 2nd, and we received a request today from one of the attorneys involved in it that that hearing be continued. So, you know, I know some of the individuals that are here had gone to some of the other hearings in Baton Rouge. So before you go up there, I would tell you to check the docket first to see if the court is going to grant that continuance. And the suit will proceed from there.
Mr. Chair, I want to make a motion based on the advice of our attorney under executive session that we consider item number 3.
Consider what?
That's the settling of the suit.
Oh,
That's the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
this
You
is
take
settled
off the floor,
according to
sorry.
the DA's recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you, okay.
Any other discussion? We got a second. All right, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar, which we don't have because we haven't had an agenda review, so we're going to go through these. I'm going to go through the council members and see which ones, if they want to pull anything off of the agenda and bring it up for discussion. And then those will be so noted and will be used and will come back up for discussion. Mr. Dean. Mr. Sharp. Mr. Thompson. Mr. Falcon. Mr. Goode. Mr. Goby.
I'd like to go ahead and poll under resolutions, item number 1, CA Series C, 4247 for discussion.
All right, we have that one. Is any other ones? I'm sorry. Is that all you had, Jake? Mr. Candelar?
None.
Ms. O'Brien?
None.
Mr. Stefanski?
None.
Mr. Bender? No, sir. Mr. Artig? Mr. Smith? All right.
Move to adopt the consent calendar?
I am. I need a motion to adopt the consent calendar. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
All right, that brings us back to resolution number 1, council series number C4247, resolution of vacating in part the 6-month moratorium on 2.32 acres on Highway 1088. And I have a speaker card. Carlo? Maybe I should call on the council first.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move we adopt the resolution.
Okay. I'll second. Motion been made and seconded, we adopt the resolution. Any discussion amongst the council? Carlo?
Thank you. Carlo Hernandez. I have been speaking with Mr. Fonzik, who I guess sponsored this resolution, and I was telling him that one of my concerns is that this is the first time that this moratorium will be vacated, and for the church. I mean, I have no problem with the church. Actually, one of the things is, and I would hope that if they're listening, that I would request that they consider downzoning, because right now, the present zoning on that site is Highway Commercial 3. The reason is, it was part of the Liberty Storage site, which is built all around it, on 2 sides around it. And they took, and I'm assuming, although I shouldn't say that, let's just say I believe they got a good price for the thing, the acres that they got. So what I'm requesting is that they consider downzoning to have churches. Now, churches, if they want to stay in the commercial designation, churches begin in the neighborhood commercial 4 designation at 12,500. At HC3, it's 200,000. So based on the map that I saw, drawing that I saw, it looked like it was less than 10,000 square feet for that particular facility. So what I would suggest is that, and I'm requesting that they consider downzoning this to the neighborhood commercial 4 designation, and I know that I, for one, as a neighbor, would feel much better about the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Roby?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. Earlier today, there was a little bit of just emails going back and forth. I want to take a moment to kind of explain it. What had happened was that when Mr. Gould and myself decided to protect that strip of highway between Salt and I-12, and we had placed a moratorium, we didn't realize the strength of the wording, which was good, that it prohibits someone from building on an existing or adding to. In this case, the church wishes to tear down an existing building to rebuild a church. And the way the moratorium is worded, it prevents that, and that's not right. So we're going to have no problem lifting the moratorium just on that one parcel. It does not weaken the rest of the moratorium for that section of highway. I wanted to put that into the record. I've sent an email out to the homeowners associations and explained it as best I could, but that is the interpretation. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Are there other people that
There are
want to
some
speak?
members here from that church.
I know
if
they
we-
are.
If somebody would want to hear from them, but I think and I asked Marty to look at this, and that's why my name is on here, I guess. But I asked Marty to look at this and to make sure that, I didn't realize when the moratorium was there and everything. It is a relatively small congregation. They will have only Sunday services and, it's my understanding, Wednesday night services during Lent, and that's it. And so it's not going to impede the traffic and stuff, which I think everybody was looking at. And I know I've looked at it in 1088 area in the past to make sure that we don't, create more problems of traffic in that area. So I think we've resolved that part of the issue. So I think if everybody's okay, I'm ready to vote.
Any more discussion? All
Yes.
right, please vote.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who said that?
Before we go off there, I listened there very intently at the suggestion that was made by Mr. Hernandez, and it made a lot of sense to me. And I'm wondering how, if that could be done, probably staff could answer that better, without interfering with what the church is trying to do, or if they have ever been asked to consider doing that, because as he pointed out, that zoning is really not appropriate for, as I appreciate it, and it can be done in HC3, but there's a more appropriate zoning that could be applied there. And I'm wondering if we have even considered offering that to the congregation to consider doing.
Well, my feeling about that is the land belongs to the church, and if the church wants to rezone it, they can request that. But I don't think we ought to be asking the church to rezone something that they own.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Scoot?
the rezoning request, that should be something that Mr. Hernandez should approach the church and talk to them about. What we're considering tonight is whether we're going to vacate the moratorium so they can tear their building down and build a new church in its place. The rest of this, while it may sound good, it's really not germane to the subject.
Any other discussion? You covered, Mr. Smith, your light's still on? Anybody else? The administration? Please vote. I asked for any other discussion.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, that's the end of the consent calendar. We will go to appeals. Appeal number 2 and 3 have been, are not going to be heard, but we are going to have motions. Number 1 is an appeal, Sam Markovich on behalf of Acadian Properties, appealing the zoning commission denial on October the 7th for a waiver of the required 50-foot buffer and parking setback of the landscape requirements to accommodate for road improvements on LA 21. We have a card, but who is, okay, we'll hear from, is this Mr. Barkovich? Barkovich, yes, sir. Give us your information, sir.
Sam Malkovich.
Address, name, address.
3520 North Holland, Metairie, Louisiana, 7002.
You may speak.
Okay, the case is a simple case of the state came in and took a piece of my property to widen the road. There's two options. The option is that the 50 foot, that 48 feet that the state took, we're asking the parish for the variance. So if the variance will be approved, there will be no economic damage. If the variance will not be approved, there will be economic damage that taxpayers will have to pay. So it's a very simple question. Are we going to have an economic damage or we're not going to have an economic damage? The site has been approved, the shopping center already got a permit, and that's where we are.
That's it?
Very simple.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is there somebody on the other side or have something else to say on this? Ms. Cipher?
Thank you, Chairman Tanner. Congratulations, and to Vice Chair Dean. My name is Sandra Slifer, that I am the convener of the Association of Associations. This is the Highway 21 Corridor Association. That there has been a planned corridor overlay on the Highway 21 area for almost 25 years. That there have been regulations in place as part of your regulations for that 25-year period of time, so that any developer who is going to be doing projects in the Highway 21 corridor is well aware of what these restrictions are. That in addition to that, the widening of Highway 21 has probably been one of the most talked about, written about, widening projects, in St. Tammany Parish, and that it was no surprise that this widening was going to take place and that additional property would be needed in order to accommodate this widening. That the zoning commission did not see any compelling reason to grant these exemptions. That the Association of Associations has a history of working closely with developers. Mr. Markovich has not met with us, and that, quite frankly, that there is a history of other violations on this property that, we do not see any reason to grant this exemption to Mr. Markovich, given the conditions. And there are some residents of Timber Branch who would also like to speak. Thank you.
Have they turned in a card?
We were told that we didn't need a card for appeals.
Okay. Well, I have Dwayne Mache.
Dwayne Mesh. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm the president of the Timber Branch Properties Owners Association, and we come here to urge you to concur with what the Zoning Commission has extended, which was a denial. We also want to encourage you to follow the set guidelines that St. Tammany Parish has adopted. We feel that that has been in place for quite some time, and we would like to see you guys follow what has been established. We have concerns, especially along the back side of our Timber Branch on Laurel Leaf Drive. Over the past 2.5 years. Those residents have experienced a lot of flooding, which has been caused by tremendous amounts of dirt that have been brought onto that property and blocked natural drainage. We have additional concerns about the drainage. We feel that there needs to be extensive studies on how the drainage will be set in, where it drains to, and things of that sort. And additional concerns where it will affect the drainage by allowing Mr. Markovich to establish this without following the landscape and the setbacks. We feel that that may cause additional problems. And then just the lack of adequate parking when it's determined as to what type of business he's going to have in his building. And I'm not sure if anyone else had turned in a card or wished to speak on behalf of Timber Branch, but that's all we have.
Mr. Fonzie, how much time?
Mr. Markovich has 4 minutes of his left, and the other side has 2 minutes.
Mr. Sam?
The drainage,
They both have rebuttal.
the drainage issues was resolved by the engineers that prepared the drainage plan. When the site will be developed, all those drain issues that the neighbors have will be resolved. So we have a building permit. The project was approved. Any change to the original design will cause an economic damage. So the question is, who's going to write a check?
Thank you. Anybody else on Mr. Cipher?
Chairman Tanner, it's our understanding that there is no project that is currently pending for this site. Yes, so that there has been no opportunity to review any kind of plans that are specific for this location. There is an opportunity for Mr. Markovich to design a building that will meet the Highway 21 Planned Corridor Overlay standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Mr. Chairman, additionally, I had some photographs from the residents over on Laurel Leaf, some of the drainage problems that have been caused, if anyone wanted to look at those. Otherwise, we just urge you to support what the zoning commission has made their decision on. Thank you.
Sam, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, unfortunately, the statement that the lady made are totally inaccurate. There was a design, there is a design, and it's an approved design. If she doesn't have copies, she needs to do her homework. Thank you.
We have discussion from the council now. Anybody else in the public want to speak on this one way or the other? No? Okay.
I have a, sorry.
Go ahead, Maureen.
I have a question. The gentleman just stated that there is a design. I noticed that in the staff recommendations, the staff recommended denial, but it said if the commission wishes to recommend approval, it should be subject to all applicable regulations and the following conditions. And there were a list of 6 conditions. Was this in general, or was this specific to the plan that he is discussing?
This is going to take a little history. In 2007, there was a conditional use and plan corridor review for a project on this site. That is the project that has approval as of today. Shortly thereafter, within the time allotment to essentially keep the conditional use and plan review alive, the land was cleared, so the property was occupied from that perspective. There have been a number of attempts to pull a flat work permit. At least one that has been issued, but those have expired, so there is no active permit on this site. The crux of the problem is that Mr. Markovich's design includes a 50-foot buffer along the previous Highway 20 21 right-of-way. With the DOTD acquisition of his property, they are, have acquired essentially the entirety of buffer. Mr. Markovich's plan, as approved as a condition of use, cannot be built on the property. We advised Mr. Markovich he needed to redesign. He does not have a project that has been approved. He has a plan that's approved to the condition of use. We have no building permits, we have no active permits. All of those things have expired. If Mr. Markovich can build what was approved in 2007, he would be able to get his permits. Without that 50 feet, he cannot approve what was done in 2007. We advised him the alternative to a redesign is to come and ask for a waiver of that setback. The conditions that you were talking about are the 2007 conditions on that original plan.
Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir. May I address Mr. Fontenot, please? Sydney, so you're saying that the conditional use isn't that like a 2-year? And so that's expired?
If they do not occupy the site, they occupy the site. They have cleared the property, they have pulled permits. So I think that we have a situation where the conditional use as approved in 2007, the 50-foot buffer, all the square footage, parking, landscaping, all of that, would be a project that would get permits. Unfortunately, because of the delay in the beginning of construction and the widening of Highway 21, that project cannot be built. The staff does not have the authority to waive that 50 feet. So either we need a new plan review approved by the zoning commission as per the plan corridor overlay, so it would have to go through that process, or a waiver would have to be granted to provide the relief for that front buffer.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, it's the folks of Timber Branch, the people of Flower Estates have suffered because of this project or because of this piece of land. It's 8 acres. Back several years ago, that piece of property was bought by Mr. Markovich. He came in, took all the trees down, loaded a bunch of dirt on the piece of property. The people in Timber Branch are getting his water. That way, I guess that would be west of the property. The people in Flower Estates, east of the property, the white dirt, the mud comes down to the ditch, goes south and crosses under 21, and it goes into Flower Estates. It has been a major, major pain for those residents. So he has not been a very good neighbor at all. This past review, as we sat in review for the tax assessor's office, he was asking again for agricultural use. So apparently he hasn't been paying but about $200 a year on, and I say 200, I don't know, it can't be very much, a year on taxes on that property. So when he sits up and asks, and I'm addressing the chair, when he sits up and asks who's going to write the check, I don't know. I mean, that's a very poor history of what's going on. I know this, this kind of goes back and forth, to use Mr. Gould's word that I like. Is it germane to the subject? I like that. It is this, what I've said basically is germane to the subject. He hasn't been a good neighbor. I think that he needs to follow what every other developer on Highway 21 has done, follows the plan corridor overlay, and that is a 100-foot buffer. I think he needs to go in there and redesign it. This, it has been a nightmare. He's been brought before Judge Black before here. It's been a mess. So with all of that having been said, I'd like to concur with the zoning denial, please.
Motion been made and seconded that we concur with the zoning denial. Is there any discussion from anybody else in the audience? None? Vote, please.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
I now need a resolution to, motion made and seconded, resolution to do the denial. Please vote.
Mr. Canulet? Yes. Mr. Artigue? Yes. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to appeal number 2. I have a note here to call on Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, that appeal has been withdrawn, so I move to concur with the zoning commission.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we concur with the zoning commission. Any discussion? Anybody in the public? Administration? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Do we need to make another resolution?
We need to introduce an ordinance.
No, we need to introduce, Mr. Thompson, need you to introduce an ordinance.
Yeah, so move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded, the ordinance to be adopted. Okay, number 3. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, that appeal also has been withdrawn, so I move to concur with zoning.
Motion made and seconded that we concur with the zoning approval. Any discussion from the council? Any discussion from the audience? Administration? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Can I have a motion? Ordinance? Introduction?
Move to introduce.
Ordinance has been made and seconded to be introduced. This time we go to ordinances for adoption. Ordinance number 1, ordinance to amend the Parish Unified Development Code regarding MD1, MD2, and MD3 relative to buffer setback and height regulations, introduced 3/6/14, postponed a number of times, and
Move to postpone until April meeting.
motion to postpone. There's a second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Hear none. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5172, AA ordinance to amend and reenact Section 3, 164, location restriction of the alcohol beverage regulations under Article 7, all wards, introduced, postponed, and amended and introduced again in December. Mr. Goode.
Move to postpone until April as well.
Motion been made and seconded to be postponed to April. Any discussion on the postponement?
No, a question. Has the thing been amended as we had talked about or not?
Well, I've got a meeting with Mr. Wayner on Monday. And rather than amending it, and then if something comes out of the discussion, something else needs to be, we need to address.
Okay.
So I'm just going to hold on to this one, but the changes that I have submitted to you guys, I do intend to utilize them once we move on this thing.
Any other discussion? Anybody in the audience, administration? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Number 3 is ordinance calendar number 5307, an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code to limit the permitted size of boathouses on designated scenic streams in St. Tammany Parish.
Need to postpone again, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the hearing is scheduled for 2/3.
Motion been made and seconded to postpone. Any discussion? Barbara? Ms. Dodds, I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask a question regarding the restrictions on whether the timing will be right. will that meet the March requirement for the agenda publication, or will it now be April? Because of the 10-day waiting period that is required after the 3rd of February.
It'll be, it will determine whether or not somebody appeals it. If they appeal it, it will, if they wait till the end of the 10th day, it won't make it on the March agenda. It'll be an appeal, but otherwise it'll be on there for adoption.
So if there are no appeals,
If there are no appeals, it'll be on for adoption.
thank you.
Anybody else? Administration, please vote. Ordinance calendar number 5311, ordinance to amend ordinances to provide for amendments to the personnel policies pertaining to benefits, annual leave, and sick leave. I ask for a motion for adoption. Motion been made and seconded for adoption. Any discussion? Audience, administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5312 AA, ordinance to name Slidell Airport Road Extension as the Dr. T.J. Smith Senior Expressway. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody in the audience, administration, please vote.
Motion passes, 11 yeas, 1 abstention, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar 5313, an ordinance to extend for an additional 6 months the moratorium on the opening of new streets in Angelica Estates.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded that we adopt the ordinance. Any discussion from the
Yeah.
audience? Mr. Goode?
Yeah, I'd like to call Mr. Barnett up. Also, I want to address some comments that were made last month. It was alleged that there's nothing in the file to support this moratorium. This is the file, and this has been going on since 2002. That information was supplied to the individuals that made the public records request. Where those comments came from, I have no idea. Today, legal counsels met to try to figure out what we're going to do with Angelica Estates and try to straighten out the mess. Mr. Barnett represents the Drainage District and has been very involved in trying to research this and figure out exactly what's going on with this thing. I'm asked Mr. Barnett to brief you because we're probably going to have to enter into litigation on this thing before it's over with. Mr. Barnett.
Robert Barnett, 639 Loyola Street, Avenue, New Orleans. How far in depth do you want me to go, Mr. Gould?
Well, whatever is necessary without putting all our cards on the table, since we're probably going to end
With
up
2 minutes of explanation.
there.
I'll see if I can beat that. Mr.
Well, you
Stefanski.
got to remember, he's an attorney
I'm
now.
getting paid by the word. The problem is Hellenberg Properties LLC owns a parcel of land. It wants to donate to the parish a triangular piece of property. Within that triangular piece of property, a pond has already been built. It's already been constructed. The trouble is that the pond as constructed does not fit within the triangle that we've plotted out. I've abstracted all the parcels of property around it, trying to figure out where it actually sits. We've met with Mr. Hand today. Jean Thibodeau has attempted to plot it. It is an absolute title nightmare. There's no way that this parish can accept that property as it exists now without the appropriate survey. Is my 2 minutes up? Because you're smiling at me. All right. But how much more do you?
Well,
does that
I think
suffice?
that's sufficient to show that there are real problems here. There are other issues that the developers have not addressed and need to be addressed. We can't take this subdivision into the maintenance system until all of these issues are resolved. The purpose of the moratorium is to stop allowing them to sell the land off so they can walk away scot-free. What we're doing is we're not letting them open up any more parcels until they get with the program.
They're also attempting, if I may add, they're attempting to have paperwork drafted to say that the parish agrees to certain conditions. And the parish has not accepted any of it. Yet they're trying to use that paperwork to say the parish has. It's not being done, say, fairly, shall we say.
Any other discussion? Audience, administration, please vote.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Who is that man and who did something with the rail, Rob Barnett? I've never heard him that short-winded.
You had to use that one word.
I'm older and wiser.
Pat, he's wearing a shock collar,
Yes, sir.
and I've got control of the button.
Fact.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Love you too.
Ordinance calendar number 5314, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on property abutting the Louisiana Highway 21 planned corridor from Lane Road North to Azalea Drive.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? In the audience? About the council, administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5315, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3 acres from A2 to A2 and rural overlay ward 6 and 7, District 11.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any comments from the audience? Administration has none. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5316, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire certain parcels of immovable property and or right-of-ways for future drainage improvements for Little Creek. District 5. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Administration, audience, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5317, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire and or lease certain parcels and or right-of-ways for the purpose of establishing a library branch in South Slidell.
So moved. Mr. Chairman.
You made, Mr. Bender moves.
Yeah.
Second? Second. Discussion, Mr. Bender.
Yes, sir, I'll be brief. This is from one of my bordering colleagues too here, you know. I just want to let the council know there will be no tax increase with this, okay? No millage. After that, the last event with the millage, I've been working with Ms. Pat. We both have been very cooperative with one another. I appreciate that, Ms. Pat, including her staff, her legal people, our legal people. The same building that we were zeroing in on, we got in touch with the owner, and the whole purpose of this is a lease with future leases built in and an option to purchase if it ever proves beneficial to us to do that. I think I would tell you, because I've sat in on all the meetings, that we have good numbers here. And this is going to help relieve the 34% of the people in our parish that are going to the North Slidell Library. Surrounded by a ton of schools, I would appreciate your support. And Ms. Pat, I want to thank you, your council, our council and staff for helping with this. Thank you. And I'll make that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you all very much.
Ordinance calendar number 5318, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory, wards 3 and 6, districts 2, 3, 6, and 11. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Audience, administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5319, ordinance to amend the parish code regarding road lighting districts to amend the boundaries. Do you hear the motion? Motion made and seconded. Does council have any discussion? Mr. Carlo Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. If I could maybe get a little extra time, because I'd like to properly
As long as you stay on the subject.
The subject is lighting district number 6,
Okay.
and what this ordinance does. Presently, today, before this ordinance is adopted, the boundary for, beginning on the west, is Highway 59, 1088 on the north. South, it's 190 until it gets out of Mandeville, quote unquote, and then drops down to Lake Pontchartrain. It goes all the way to the Lacombe to meet up with lighting district number 7. So, or 1, excuse me. And so and then it meanders all the way. It follows the difference between this Ward 4 and 7. Then it goes up to 1088 again. And about a year ago, this council adopted a change to that, which included it. The 1088 right now is the midpoint of 1088. That ordinance changed it so that it was the entire right-of-way between I-12 and the entire interchange of I-12 to Lakeshore High School. That project now is complete on there. If you go out there and look, every pole that leads to the high school has a light on it, and there are quite a few poles. And that's CLECO, that's theirs. Now, the next section is the section between I-12, called Loretta here, but I-12 and going to Solt, and then Solt to Highway 59. The section, and that's Washington St. Tammany, is going to be the one who's going to do the section between I-12 and Solt. What I'm requesting, and hopefully you will adopt this ordinance, is that also consideration be given for the people who live between Solt and Highway 59. The interesting thing is that all the people who live south of 1088 are the people who pay in that district. Myself, and all the people who will benefit, obviously, is anyone along 1088. The church earlier that we heard before is going to benefit from this. Obviously, Liberty Storage is going to benefit. Do they pay anything? No, they don't pay anything from lighting district number 6. So, the question is, and I grappled with this a little bit, but I said, you know, churches are okay with me. I mean, they're fine. There's schools that are along there, okay with me. But those individuals who are there, are they going to pay? No, they're not going to pay. But maybe someone like Liberty Storage might contribute some donation to the parish on there. You know, the thing is, I don't pay very much. I paid a total just under $2,700 in property taxes for 2014. Of that total, it was just under $40 that I paid for lighting district number 6. So it's you know, it's not very much for the lighting district on there, but hopefully we all are going to benefit by having now, you know, lighting along 1088 between the I-12 all the way going to 59, and that's what I'm requesting. And that's what this does. It goes all the way to 59 on both sides. Now, instead of the midpoint, it will go on both sides, so anyone living on either side of 1088 will now benefit from having proper lighting, and that's what you know, I'm supporting and requesting and hoping that the parish will also allocate the funds necessary to implement the same. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Yes. So moved. So moved to make the motion. I appreciate Mr. Carlos' support on this, and that we're trying to just take in just the public servitude right now from I-12 to Salt, so we can straighten out the lighting in that one area to light up and balance the lighting from I-12 to Salt. Further consideration can be certainly given, but the funds for the district are getting a little sketchy right now, so we're going to have to take it at later consideration. Thank you.
So the ordinance allows it to go to Salt or all the way to 59?
No, just to Salt, as I understand.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the ordinance does incorporate Highway 1088 all the way to Highway 59. The project, I believe, is from I-12 to Salt.
Okay.
So at a later date, from Salt to Highway 59 can be brought in if the lighting company has the funds to do so.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
We couldn't do that here anyway, huh? Wouldn't that have to be a go before the voters to expand the lighting district?
No, sir. Well, what's happened is that, Mr. Dean, is that the lighting starts on my side of the district. Then Washington St. Tammany carries power to the other side of the street. It goes up technically on Marty's servitude, then jumps back on the highway. DOTD will not allow us to adjust the lighting unless we balance it out by certain measurements between poles. And the only way to do that under my lighting district, because Marty doesn't have one on that side, is to take in the servitude just on Highway 1088 to straighten it out.
Any other discussion? Anybody in the audience? Administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Ordinance County Order number 5320, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire certain parcels of immovable property for future expansion of Highway 59 and Little Creek. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Belisario, any discussion from the council? Any discussion from the audience? Administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5321, ordinance to authorize the parish president to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with North Shore Community Foundation, Ward 3, District 3.
Second.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Belisario, any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead, Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to, I've reviewed this. I wanted to just ask Mr. Fontenot, in the beginning, it refers to high alcohol content in neighborhoods with schools and I believe it says.
And that's not the right ordinance we're on.
Excuse me, which ordinance are we on?
Right here, 5321.
5321.
My apologies. I'm one step ahead. Now, my energy level went way up with the library, I have to tell you. I'm not lucid right now. Excuse me, I apologize.
Any other discussion on the ordinance that we are discussing? From the audience, administration, please vote. We're going to skip the next one. So.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Next one is ordinance calendar number 5322, ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Uniform Development Code by creating section 6.09, entertainment overlay.
So moved.
I'll take the motion in a second, but I want to remind you that this is going to have to go to planning and zoning.
Yes, you're absolutely
Right,
correct.
and that was the point I was gonna head to. My understanding is that this is not gonna be
a lot
approved.
fewer words than you do.
Yes, sir, and you can sure say crick a lot better than me. I can tell you that much, okay? And I'm envious of that, Mr. Tanner. But this is gonna be postponed until April, correct? Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion to postpone? Motion
You
to
refer,
refer.
refer to
Planning and zoning.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we combine it. I'd move we postpone, I'd move with the, refer this to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that we postpone this until April, when the other ordinance, and by the way, that's when the other ordinance we're talking about should be looked at the same time.
I would second that.
Yeah.
Gene,
Oh, sorry.
any discussion in the audience, administration, council, please vote.
Mr. Bender? Thank you. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5324, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium on boathouses or boat slips over 800 square feet on designated Louisiana state scenic streams. Who was the motion? Gene and Mr. Bender. Any discussion? Nobody? Administration, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, this time I need to open the agenda for items 1 and 2 of items off the floor.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, vote please.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
First one is a resolution in support of the St. Tammany Parish School Board's resolution regarding Common Core standards and PAR-CC testing. Ms. O'Brien.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Audience, please vote.
Motion passes 11 yeas, 1 abstention, 2 absent.
Resolution number 2 to support and authorize the parish president to modify a cooperative endeavor agreement. regarding the Grand Avenue Bridge Replacement Plan, Ward 4, District 7.
So moved.
Motion made and second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Anybody in the audience? Mr. Groby?
I want to take a moment to explain to the audience that I want to deeply thank the administration and for supporting this. What happened was that originally, when the design for the Grand Avenue Bridge came out, there was no intention to put any type of culvert in the bayou. Unbeknownst to the administration, myself, or engineering, they had changed the design, and they actually placed 3 box culverts across the width of the entire canal. But they had set them subgrade or sub-below by 2 feet, and there are 6 or so families that cannot actually get their boats down the canal now, and several of those families crabbed, and they can't get their boats or their crab traps through the canal now. So with the administration's help, and speaking with DOTD, they have agreed to raise the center section of the culvert 2 feet to alleviate that problem. And again, I want to thank the administration deeply for agreeing with this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any from the audience, administration? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, before we adjourn, Mr. Belisario would like to make a statement.
What I'd like to tell you about, I had to leave the meeting because my wife was being sworn in as a board member for St. Tammany Parish School System, and I went over there, take the pictures, and hold the Bible for her oath. So then I came back. I just want to let you know why I left. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Motion been made, second, we adjourn.
Aye.
All in favor, vote.
Let's go.